that short interview that the former Chrysler exec did on Fox Business. Have you seen this, Dan?
No, I haven't.
Let's just listen to his comments here, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
So I want to bring in now a terrific guest, former Chrysler CEO Bob Nardelli. Bob, so wonderful to have you here. Of course, you were CEO of Chrysler from 2007 to 2009, which, if I'm not mistaken, was right in the middle of the financial crisis. So you have a lot of interesting experience in the motor industry. But with regard to electric vehicles, it still feels to me that the general driving public does not want to be forced into driving an electric vehicle. What say you?
Yeah. Well, actually, you're exactly correct. My timing was not too impeccable back then with Chrysler. But let's reflect for a moment. Back during that period, Obama and Biden issued the CAFE standards, where they were exactly trying to do what Biden's doing now. They basically said the average mileage for an internal combustion engine had to increase significantly, therefore limiting the number of Ram trucks I could produce. So we had to produce smaller cars. The consumer said, no thanks, and they had to find an off-ramp then. Now let's look at something. The installed base today is 278 million cars. When I was at Chrysler, the average age was 11 years. It's now grown to 12.6 years. Consumers still saying, I'll make the decision on what I want to buy. Administration, yet another debacle with EVs. You're not going to force me to do that. We just heard from Kelly about how Tesla really missed the number in the first quarter, but BYD missed it even further. They were only at 301,000. If you look at Rivian, you look at Panu, Fisher, Lucas, actually, these people, Rivian lost, 5.4 billion last year. So they're having one heck of a time. These startups are just not going to make it. And one more point, you experienced this on your trip. Yes. There's 64,000 EV charging stations compared to 196,000 gasoline stations. There's 1.8 million charging stations in China. It's a phenomenon. Now, when you went to a gasoline station, did the pump work? Sure. When you went to charge, as I recall on your trip, you had a lot of problems trying to get that vehicle charged to get back to New York City, my friend. So this is just another, another issue, another debacle by this administration trying to create a revolution versus allowing an evolution, as we heard from your last presenter. This will happen, but you can't force it down consumers' throats.
That's exactly right.
What are your thoughts, Dan?
Well, first of all, I know Bob Nardelli. I used to work for him when I worked at General Electric.
Oh, nice.
I think he's right on point. I mean, the reality of it is, when you try and force these solutions, especially when you're dealing with something that is really high cost for most of the target consumer base out there, you really force them into a decision where they say, well, I'm just not going to buy. I'm just going to hang on to my vehicle. And candidly, the auto industry has that problem already. If you look at the inventory levels in the auto industry, even just conventional vehicles, it's back to pre-pandemic levels and growing. Yeah. And the rate of buying has been slowing down because the interest rates are making it really prohibitive, because during that pandemic, automakers raised prices. So now you've got a more expensive car with very high financing rates, and the prices have not come back down yet. So I think the industry as a whole has got some big challenges ahead of it that they're going to have to work through for both conventional and electric vehicles.
Yeah, I agree. And, he made some of the points that we're talking about there. He's talking about kind of charging stations efficiency when they were showing some of the kind of the numbers, Stellantis showed up there. And you mentioned you guys are working with those guys when it comes to partnering. Yeah,
it's interesting when you look at the situation on the EV charging. Not only do you need to have a lot more of them, but, you need to be able to charge more quickly, because when you go fill up your car, you don't have to sit there for 20 or 30 minutes. You can fill it up with gasoline, in 5 minutes and you're gone. So you actually ultimately end up needing more charging stations because you're at a charging station
more lag.
Longer. Yeah. And the charging stations that are out there, depending on, what source you looked at, I've seen some numbers where at some points in time, there were as many as 20% of them that were not functioning.
Yep.
So there's a lot of work that really needs to be done there. And that's also going to pace the adoption, because that's going to directly reflect people's comfort level of how quickly and how conveniently can they charge their vehicle.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching one of the clips from the Business Line podcast. If you want to see the full episode, click up here.
And if you want to see more fun clips, click up here.